In My Hero Ultra Rumble, several characters have alternate battle styles. Each battle style shifts a character into a completely different role with new abilities, strengths, and playstyles that can make them feel like an entirely new character. Two of the most polarizing battle styles in the game right now are Dabi and Crazy Torch Dabi. Both versions have struggled to consistently perform for a while now, but despite sharing the same character, they bring very different strengths to the table. So the question is simple, which Dabi is actually better? My name's Yestermorn, and in this video we're breaking down Tech Dabi versus Strike Dabi, comparing their abilities, playstyle, strengths, weaknesses, and how each one performs in today's competitive environment. If you enjoy character breakdowns like this, consider liking the video or subscribing. I've been putting out Ultra Rumble videos consistently, and there's plenty more on the way. With that said, let's get into it. First we'll compare each Dabi's abilities, starting with their alpha. Tech Dabi's alpha, Arson, is a homing ranged projectile. Because it tracks enemies, it's very easy to land, but it comes with two major downsides. It's slow and deals low damage. It takes a moment to reach its target, and even when it does connect, a single projectile doesn't do much on its own. It does apply a burn effect though, which adds some extra value over time. For a while, this was one of the weaker abilities in the game. However, it recently received a buff that made it faster at the cost of some damage. The trade-off actually helped it overall. Now, Arson feels like a reliable source of chip damage. You can constantly throw these out in fights without worrying about precise aim, steadily applying pressure over time. Strike Dabi's alpha, Flames of Resentment, sends 3 pillars of fire directly in front of him, dealing solid damage and applying burn. You can also charge the attack to release 5 pillars instead of 3, increasing its width significantly. While charging, Dabi briefly hovers in the air, which can help adjust positioning or avoid certain attacks. Flames of Resentment is at its best when enemies line up, allowing you to deal massive damage to multiple targets at once. In the right scenario, it can absolutely melt teams. The issue is consistency. The attack struggles to reliably hit aerial targets, and because it keeps you relatively stationary while casting, you're vulnerable to being punished. It's strong when it connects, but not always easy to use effectively in chaotic fights. While both Dabi's alphas serve as their range options, they function very differently. Tech Dabi's alpha is more of a run and gun ability, with the homing mechanic doing most of the work for you. You can throw it out consistently while repositioning, applying steady pressure without committing too hard. Strike Dabi's alpha, on the other hand, is far more deliberate. You have to fully commit to the animation, position yourself correctly, and often stand your ground to get full value out of it. One is about constant chip damage and low risk, the other is about timing and high reward. Next, let's take a look at their beta abilities, starting with Tech Dabi. His beta, Shadowfire, allows him to set a trap that triggers a pillar of flame when an enemy touches it, dealing solid damage and applying burn. You can place up to 5 traps at once, and they can even be set mid-air. Shadowfire is easily Tech Dabi's primary source of damage, and it becomes especially strong in tight, close-quartered areas where enemies are more likely to run into them. Strike Dabi's beta, Scorching Admonition, works very differently. Dabi launches himself upward with a kick and latches onto the first enemy he connects with. He then engulfs both of them in flames, dealing strong damage and applying burn. While this ability hits hard, it only targets one opponent at a time and leaves Dabi vulnerable during the animation, especially in teamfights. That said, it isn't just an offensive tool. It can also double as mobility, giving you a quick way to escape or reposition when needed. Again, their betas serve very different purposes. Tech Dabi's traps are primarily defensive. You can set them and forget them, letting them control space while you continue using the rest of your kit. They're so strong because they work alongside your other abilities rather than replacing them. Strike Dabi's beta is the opposite. It forces him into a committed animation where he can't do anything else, trading safety for burst damage. It hits hard, but you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to get that payoff. Lastly, let's compare their gammas. Tech Dabi's gamma is called Ring of Fire. Dabi stomps down and creates a large circle of flames around himself. The fire lingers on the ground, dealing damage and applying burn, and the ring itself blocks incoming projectiles. Since Tech Dabi has no real mobility, this is essentially his only form of survivability. Thankfully, it works well and fits with the rest of his kit perfectly. With Ring of Fire active, enemies are forced to either fight him inside the flames or back off and wait it out. That window gives Dabi valuable time to set up traps and control space, which is exactly how he wants to play. Strike Dabi's gamma, Crazy Torch, is the core of his entire kit. When activated, he engulfs himself in flames, slowly draining his own HP over time while enhancing his alpha and beta abilities. With Crazy Torch active, his alpha immediately fires 5 pillars without needing to charge, and his beta gains significantly more dash range, making it a much stronger mobility tool. The ability also triggers small explosions at certain HP thresholds, and a large explosion when it ends, which can even block projectiles. The downside, of course, is its constant health drain. It's a serious drawback, but Strike Dabi is almost forced to run it anyway. Without Crazy Torch active, his other abilities feel noticeably weaker and far less threatening. Both Dabi's gammas lean into what they are already built to do. Ring of Fire is an excellent defensive tool and is essentially Tech Dabi's saving grace. It reinforces his control-heavy playstyle and gives him the survivability he otherwise lacks. Strike Dabi's gamma, on the other hand, is purely enhancement. It amplifies his other abilities and boosts his damage output, but it doesn't offer much standalone utility. It makes him more dangerous, not necessarily more versatile. Even though both versions of Dabi look similar on the surface, they actually play very differently. They share the same HP and special action, so the real differences come entirely from their abilities. Tech Dabi is far more strategic and control-oriented. His kit isn't built around raw offensive pressure, so you have to force enemies to fight on your terms. Luring opponents into traps by baiting them around corners or pulling them close enough to gamma is where most of your damage comes from. If you get caught out in the open, you don't have many answers. Managing Ring of Fire properly is also crucial. It's his only real survivability tool, and since you only get one charge at a time, you can't afford to waste it. Knowing when to use it, and more importantly, when to hold it, reinforces the fact that Tech Dabi is one of the most methodical characters in the game. Strike Dabi, though, is the embodiment of chaos. He's built around big damage and thrives in both teamfights and one-on-one situations, with abilities suited for each. In many ways, he's the opposite of Tech Dabi. He brings significantly more offensive power, but struggles defensively. Thanks to Crazy Torch's constant HP drain, you're rarely fighting at full health. And outside of his beta's mobility, he doesn't have many ways to protect himself. Strike Dabi hits hard, but he's forced to accept the risk that comes with it. So, which is the better battle style in the current meta? While neither version of Dabi is particularly strong right now, and both require a good amount of practice to use effectively, Tech Dabi ultimately comes out ahead. When played correctly, his kit simply provides more consistent value. He may be somewhat limited to enclosed spaces, but in those environments he genuinely excels. His traps, control, and defensive tools all come together in a way that feels cohesive. Strike Dabi, on the other hand, struggles to find a clear niche. He has trouble dealing with airborne opponents and doesn't perform especially well indoors either. His damage is high, but it doesn't always translate into reliable results. It's a close comparison, but in the current state of the game, Tech Dabi is the better battle style. That's going to do it for this video. Which Dabi battle style do you prefer, technical or strike? Let me know in the comments, and if you'd like to see more battle style comparisons, be sure to tell me. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking it or subscribing for more Ultra Rumble content. Thanks for watching, this has been Yestermorn, and I'll see you in the next one.